Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 279th episode of Gyan Pravah, a podcast series. I am Dr. Chaitanya Ganpule, chairperson of the Endocrinology Committee Fogsi, and on behalf of Fogsi and the committee, I would like to welcome you all for this podcast series, which is the brainchild of our Fogsi president, Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar. Today, we are going to have a discussion with Dr. Gurudas Nulkar, who is an ecologist, and we are going to discuss on sustainable living. What's really true about a sustainable living? I would request Dr. Sunita Madam, who is here, to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, Chaitanya. And thank you so much, sir. 200 and nearly 80 plus podcast every day, 8 p.m. The Foxy is always there and all Foxians join, but it is on YouTube. So anyone, even the non-medicos and others can, Chaitanya's patient also will see. We have 30 chairperson on 30 days. They have been given fixed. So today is 3rd of November. So every month on 3rd, Chaitanya comes. And we discuss on academic, non-academic. I'm so happy every time Chaitanya got someone out of the box ideas. And the podcasts were always very interesting, Chaitanya. You are all the faculty, but I felt that my chairpersons are evolving by doing this podcast. But to tell you frankly, Mr. Gurdas, I got to meet 280 faculty every night. Listening to them was absolutely a pleasure and an eye-opening experience. We remain so engrossed in our own field and our own thinking that we don't know there is a beautiful world outside our whole OBGYN, and there is so much people are doing and there is so much to learn from everyone. I join every day 8 p.m. just to show the respect to all the faculty who are taking out time and coming on Foxy platform. Thank you so much, sir. And now I'll join the viewers link and I'll listen to a beautiful dialogue between you and Chaitanya. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for that kind words. And let me now officially and formally introduce today's speaker, Dr. Gurudas Nulkar. And as I said, we are going to discuss about sustainable living. So he is a professor and director of the Center for Sustainable Development, Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, Pune, and he is also a visiting professor at IIT Kanpur. His areas of research include challenges to sustainable development in India, and he was the postdoctoral endeavor fellow of the government of Australia. He is an author of 8 books, research papers, monographs, and articles. He is a recipient of the Maharashtra State Literature Award and Maharashtra Sahitya Parishad Awards. Gurudas is on the board of Ecological Society Pune and ACWA-DAM. He is also a senior fellow of Pune International Center. We are so lucky and happy to have you, Dr. Gurudas, for today's podcast. I think your mic is
Thank you
off.
so much. It's a great honor for me that you've invited me.
Thank you, sir. So, so before actually starting with the questions that I'm going to ask you, or the kind of discussion what we have to follow, when I first met you and when I got to know about that you are an ecologist and you work on sustainable development, I didn't have any idea about what an ecologist is, what the person really does, and what is a sustainable development. And I'm sure that being OBGYNs, majority of us as well may not be aware of exactly what these two terminologies mean. So let's start with you telling us more about what an ecologist is and what is a sustainable development.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opening question. I think that's extremely important that we set the context right about ecology and sustainable development. Um, to answer you in a very simple manner, ecology is the science of understanding landscapes. And within a landscape, you have physical elements. You have the rocks, you have sunlight, you have soil, everything, and you have the living organisms. So which means everybody, right from human beings to phytoplanktons and zooplanktons and crustaceans and amphibians, everything. So how we share a common planet. There is only one planet that we have between all of life forms on the planet. How do we interact? How does the physical elements interact with the biological elements? What does exchange of matter and energy mean? How do food chains evolve? What gives, essentially, what gives Earth its ability to sustain life? That is the question that we try to answer all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
In
And
Marathi, ecology is called as Parisar Vidyan.
Okay, so this is something different than geology. Geology is only regarding the
Yeah.
materialistic or rocks, is it?
On the physical elements.
On the
Yeah,
on the
physical
physical
elements.
Okay, and ecology is physical elements plus.
Biology is, that's right. So biology is about the living organisms.
Correct.
Geology is about the non-living organisms. And ecology is essentially the interaction between inanimate and animate objects on the planet.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's this. Yeah.
What do we mean by sustainable development? You are the director of the center of the department.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure all of us have heard this terminology of sustainable development so many times these days. You know, it's very common. You keep hearing that, including the United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals and things like that.
That's what we are aware.
What is sustainable development? Yeah. So what is sustainable development? To again try to simplify the answer. For a very long time, humanity has looked at economic growth as the most important factor and the biggest challenge. How do you grow the economy? How do you increase the business? How do you increase the flow of money, the incomes, the profits, all these kind of things? Now, there used to be an explicit understanding in economic growth. That is, growth solves all problems. Okay. Economic growth will lead to human well-being. But today we are in 2025 and we see that economic growth is not exactly equal to human well-being. So there is something about the growth which is not leading to development, right? There are two terms which I used. I used growth and I used development, and both are different.
Oh, yeah.
Growth is quantitative. On the other hand, it is qualitative. So if I am reporting the number of hospital beds increased in Maharashtra, that is growth. But if I report the quality of care in these 100 beds, that is development. So while growth addressed the quantitative issues, we always looked at quantities and we kind of prioritized quality less, quality as in the development quality. And thus arose the problem of development, which is not sustainable, which is not equitable, and which is not going to last for a long time.
Okay.
Right? And there are many facets to non-sustainable development. So essentially, we try to make a difference between growth on one hand, quantity, and development on the other hand, which is quality. That's the simple answer.
Okay. So now, as you rightly said, even United Nations have started speaking about sustainable development goals, and even we know, and even in that we have a few criterias or a few factors which we also have to look into as a healthcare professional. Now, when did this actual transition from growth to sustainable development took place? When did we realize that growth is not the only thing which we should be looking at, and we should be looking at as a holistic? So sustainable development probably is a more holistic approach than just a growth, isn't it?
Absolutely. So again, an excellent question about when did we realize that as humanity, as a race. And I would place it around 1962. And 1962 was the year that a seminal book was published. This book was called Silent Spring. And I urge the doctors to go and read this book. This book was called Silent Spring, and the author was Rachel Carson. Okay. Rachel Carson was a marine biologist, and the book is Silent Spring. You know, in springtime, you hear all the birds chirp and the activities happen. There is fruiting and flowering everywhere. So Rachel Carson kept noticing the springs were going silent. There were less bird, there was less insect activity, things like that. And she started her study about what is going wrong in nature. And she was able to pin it down to one particular chemical. And that chemical is DDT, right? So she started studying the effects of DDT on the food chain, and she came to realize that it's not just the food chain, it's not just the organisms, the birds, the insects that are getting terminated by DDT, but this DDT is biomagnifying, and now we find DDT in human milk. Yeah, that was a huge revelation which happened. And she started publishing that. She wrote this book, Silent Spring. And for many years, these large companies which were making DDT filed cases against her in court. And finally, she won. So 1962, Rachel Carson's Silent Spring was absolutely an eye-opener for society. For society. This changed things. And from that time onwards, the intensification of agriculture was put on the question table, right? Are we intensifying agriculture to the extent that it is not providing nutrition? In fact, it is providing toxins to the body.
Okay.
So this kind of started changing. And in around 1972, there was another report which came out from the MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which was called Limits to Growth. This limits to growth was a computer generated model in which the scientists fed in the economic growth data and consumption of raw materials. And this computer model output was that within the next 70 to 80 years, there will be a stock depletion of natural resources, of minerals, of fossil fuel, of coal. So the limits to growth was another second seminal report which came out. And from that time onwards, United Nations took cognizance of that, and they had the Earth Summit, the Rio Summit, the Stockholm Conference, so on and so forth. And they started following. And that is the time when we actually realized that perhaps economic growth has got some hidden costs. And those hidden costs are seen in human health. They are seen in the health of ecosystems and nature. And they are also seen in inequity between nations and within nations. So there is poverty within nations and poverty between nations. So those questions now started coming to the forefront, and people now started discussing, researching, studying, and writing about it.
Okay. Okay. Now, when we are saying about sustainable development all the time, but whatever development is taking place right now, what is not sustainable about? If you can, just elaborate on that.
Yeah.
And when you were discussing about, you also discussed about the food chain and how the things are affecting because of all this. So you can just, throw light on that, beginning with what is
Sure.
not sustainable about the development today.
Yeah, sure. So what is not sustainable? So we have, for a very long time, we have been thinking that economic growth is sustainable. We can grow the economy as much as we want. Today, we are a 1 trillion economy. We want to be a 5 trillion economy. The global economy is running into trillions. We want that to increase. And for a very long time, we felt that. One of the most important things which is not sustainable is economic growth. And why am I saying that? Because if you look at the way our economy is structured, we take things from nature, we make it into goods and services, and we consume them and we throw them. So every time I throw my mobile phone and buy a new mobile phone, I increase the GDP. GDP, the gross domestic product, is a measure of economic growth. And that's what we have been following since 1944, after the First World War. We have been only looking at economic growth in terms of, from the lens of GDP, the gross domestic product. Now, this gross domestic product, economic growth, is completely based upon natural resources. You think about it, look around you. I'm staring at a computer right now. It's made of glass. That glass is coming from silicon. I'm wearing clothes. It's come from nature. The cotton is made by nature. You're wearing spectacles. It's made of polycarbonate. That's made from crude oil. I'm sitting in a building which has got clay bricks and it's made of cement, which is gypsum, limestone, energy, water. Every rupee that we generate in the economy consumes natural resources. It doesn't matter if you are manufacturing something. You are a doctor. You are not manufacturing anything. You're providing a service. And to provide the service, to generate the first rupee of income, you have consumed resources. You have consumed electricity, coal, energy, petrol, food, clothes. You have to live in a house. You have to travel. You have to meet people. You have to do all of that before you are able to make your first rupee. So thus, the economy and economic growth is completely and ununivocally dependent upon nature. Right? That's the first thing, which means when we say that the GDP has to grow, we know for sure that natural resources will be consumed faster and faster. That's known. The second thing, which might be interesting to you all as doctors. So Dr. Chaitanya, have you visited a forest?
Yes.
Yeah, you visited a forest. Have you seen pollution in a forest?
Yes.
I mean, not human pollution, not wrappers and not things, but in a forest, let's say a pristine forest, have you seen pollution? Do you think you'll see pollution?
Other than the one which is generated or created again by humans?
Yeah. No, right? So a dead leaf is not pollution. A dead tree is not pollution. A dead animal is not pollution. So soil and rocks is not pollution. And why is that? Very simply, because nature can decompose, reuse, recycle anything which nature has made itself. Okay.
Really?
The only thing which nature cannot reuse, dispose, recycle, repurpose is a molecule or a product made in the factory. Right? So plastic is made in the factory. It is not made by nature, and therefore nature cannot decompose it. And that becomes a pollutant. Every day, you and I use toothpaste, we use shampoo, we use soap, we wash our body, we put that soap back into the water, it goes as sewage, that sewage adds into a river, and the river, it is a pollutant for the river because nature has not made the shampoo and the toothpaste. Right? So anything which we produce in the factory synthetically becomes a pollutant in nature. So the second thing which we know when we say that the GDP has to increase is that pollution has to increase. It's inevitable, absolutely inevitable, right? Anything that we do, any action that we do, we have to pollute. Even the very fact that you are administering healthcare to your patients, you have to use electricity, you have to burn coal, you have to pollute. There is no option. So thus, these two things we know for sure, which are not sustainable with economic growth. That if you keep increasing economic growth, natural resource depletion will accelerate and our future generations will be left poorer because they are not going to get access to those natural resources. And the second thing we know is that as we grow the GDP, as we grow the economic growth, more pollution is going to happen, which is going to leave the planet weaker in terms of supporting life. And today, which river can you dip your mug and drink the water? Not a single one. Which soil is not contaminated? Which air is not polluted? Yeah. So these two things are absolutely the bare minimum that we know are not sustainable in economic growth. The third thing which we also know is not sustainable is that while GDP is growing, the jobs are not growing in the same proportion. Yeah. In India, for the last few decades, last 2 decades, our growth has been in excess of 5 to 7% growth of GDP. But the job market, the employment is not growing by 7%. It's growing at much less. And what is the reason? The reason is very simple. Businesses want automation. They don't want people. Right? People can make mistakes. People work for 7 hours. Machines can work for 24 hours. They make lesser mistakes. They are more productive. So businesses, if you want to increase your profitability, you need automation. You need mechanization. which means you are doing away with jobs. Right?
Yeah.
So while economic growth happens, it does not automatically result in the employment opportunities, the job market. So at least these three things are not sustainable in the current model.
But then, see, as a layman, if I think about what you are saying, then probably I have to go back to the era where we used to live without any what you can say man-made things. So how can that be sustainable in today's era? So that
Absolutely.
balance
This,
between
yeah. No, this is
what
a very common question,
yeah
right? This is a very common question. Do we have to go back to hunting gathering stages?
yeah
And the answer is absolutely no. No, it's impossible, right? I mean, the kind of life that you and I are used to, we are certainly not going to go back to hunting gathering stages. We are certainly not going to go back to say that switch off the electricity. वो नहीं होने वाला है. We know that's not going to happen. But so first question I would like to ask myself here is, do we want economic growth? And the answer is yes, we want economic growth. Why is economic growth necessary? Economic growth is necessary for the simple reason that that is the main source of tax collection for the government.
yeah
Development can happen only when tax collection is good, right? Then the government can spend tax to make more water available, make more food available, make improve land quality, everything. So we need economic growth, we need tax collection to improve, and we need equitable distribution of resources. But what kind of economic growth do we need? That's the question that we should try to understand. Do we need the economic growth which is take, make, use, throw, which is a linear economy? Or can we reduce take and can we reduce throw? Can we make and can we use and increase the economy? And that's absolutely possible. And that's being done in many places in the world, in many startups also. So a circular economy is something which is talked about very much these days.
okay
Right? And that circular economy places lesser stress on natural resources, reduces pollution in ecosystems, and gives human beings choices. Okay, so very simple. We all have heard about organic food, right? And as doctors, you must be recommending organic food. What is organic food basically? Organic food is nothing but not using chemicals, not using intensification of agriculture, and producing seasonally. There are natural cycles. Nature has natural cycles. Nature has a pace. लय होती है निसर्ग की. And in automation, in intensification, we try to exceed the natural lay. And when this happens, it produces food which is less nutritious. And one of the biggest problems that we have today is we are satiating our hunger. We are no longer hungry, but we are starved of micronutrients.
true
Where are these micronutrients going? These micronutrients are going in the intensification of agriculture. When we take 2 crops of rice, 3 crops of wheat, when we take 1 crop of rice, 1 crop of wheat, and 1 crop of maybe something else, then we are taking nutrients from the soil rapidly. And once we take them out, we have to replenish them with chemicals. Right? And these chemicals are not natural. Like I said, something which is not natural becomes a pollutant. So it is polluting the soil. It is useful for the trees. It is useful for the plant, but it is a pollution for the soil because the microbiota of the soil, which is the most important army that plants have. The plants, the flora in general, trees, are one of the most lazy people on the planet. Right? In fact, they are the only organisms on the entire planet who make food for everybody else. You and I, we don't make our own food. Yeah,
yeah
we watch Sanjeev Kapoor's recipes and make some menus, but we don't make our own food.
true
The only organisms who are capable of making food on this planet are those with a photosynthetic capacity. But they don't operate alone. They are fed by these army of microbiota which exist in the soil. Now, when we overuse fertilizers, when we overuse pesticides, this microbiota gets killed. These microbes, which actually convert the inorganic elements into absorbable form for plants, they die away. And when they die, we have to resort to more chemicals. So whatever food we are eating today is more because of chemicals and not because of natural growth. So the easy way out is to be organic, to reduce fertilizer content, use organic khat use karo, fertilizers use karo, don't use pesticides, all of that. However, that comes at a cost. And the cost is the price of organic food becomes very high. And why does it become high? Because the yield is not as much as we have in intensive agriculture, right? So
That probably increases the prices. But my another question, what comes to my mind is, if the yield is less, will it be sufficient enough for the population that we have?
good question. Again, the answer is absolutely yes. Why? Because look at the amount of land in India. Let's just talk about India. Look at the amount of land which we have diverted to growing non-food items. Okay, sugarcane is not food. Coffee, tea, tobacco, jute, indigo, none of these are food. Cotton, it's not food. These are industrial raw materials. You cannot eat sugarcane. You have to process it in a factory and make sugar out of it. You cannot drink tea leaves. You have to process them. You cannot eat coffee. You have to so all these are industrial inputs. These are not food. They are not the ones which are giving us nutrition. So if we remove that land, look at the number of rubber plantations that are increasing. Look at the number of palm oil plantations that are increasing. None of this is food. If you reduce that and grow more food on the land organically, then absolutely we'll have a surplus of food. There is no doubt, because our land yield calculations in organic agriculture tell us that.
But then again, there has to be a balance between the two, isn't it? Because we cannot just put down in the entire industrial output, because that's needed for the kind of lifestyle what we are living today.
So I'll give you an example, right? Yeah. Let's take sugarcane. Let's talk about Maharashtra, sugarcane in Maharashtra. For the last couple of years, we have about 2 to 3 lakh tons of surplus sugar. 2 to 3 lakh tons of surplus sugar every year. What are we doing with it? We are exporting that sugar. Okay. Now, internationally, sugar prices are lower than Maharashtra's sugar prices. So thus, the government has to give a subsidy to the sugar factory to ship it to Nhava Sheva, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust in Mumbai, to be able to export it. Now think about it. On an average, 1 kilogram of sugar, to manufacture 1 kilogram of sugar, requires about 2000 liters of water. Okay, we have exported 2 lakh tons, 2 lakh 1,000 kilos of sugar multiplied by 2000 liters of water. We have exported that much water in a situation where many areas in Maharashtra are drought prone. Okay, so are you saying that we need 2 lakh tons of sugar surplus? Absolutely not. Look at each one of these things. Look at the amount of tobacco we are producing, and it's growing. Land under tobacco is growing. The land under fodder is growing. We are consuming more paneer today. When I was a kid, paneer, I never heard about paneer. First time I heard is in some restaurant that I went, and today you go to any corner restaurant, they'll have at least 20 paneer dishes. This urban demand for paneer is increasing the livestock population, and the livestock population is increasing the fodder cultivation. So if these are the kind of hard decisions we will need to take when we have to move towards an agriculture which is nutrition based rather than yield based. We don't want to maximize yield. We want to maximize nutrition.
So what do you suggest, if we have to actually, so this is what we say, or you say that these are things which are not sustainable in today's agricultural practices, right?
Yeah.
What do we do to balance it, and what is the practical solution?
So the driver of what is going to be produced in your economy is market. If
Yeah.
we place the demand, then there will be producers who will start making it. That's the simple thing. Okay. In the economy, the biggest power rests with consumers. If we start demanding more complex mobile phones, then there'll be companies which make more complex mobile phones. If we throw our mobile phones every 6 months, we want new phones every 6 months, they will start producing that number. If we start demanding organic nutritious food, there'll be more producers who are making organic nutritious food. So
But then,
now,
it's easier said than done, because
absolutely
if I have a pressure from the the society, my peers, that and Apple, phone 17 is launched, and I am using just iPhone 10 because it serves my purpose. But then I have this peer pressure of buying the iPhone 17 because you are still using i10. You are not with the change, or you're not with the society. So when
yeah,
it comes to, actually, when you say that I have the freedom to choose, do I really have the freedom to choose, is the question what we have to ask ourselves.
correct.
And what is your opinion on that, and how
uh,
can we manage that? As you rightly said, yes, the consumer is the person who will put the demand. And if people
who
like
has the power
us
to change?
yes. So if I say no, now I'm going to use only organic things from today onwards, and if the entire society starts saying that, obviously the supplier has to abide or obey the demand
Yeah.
and shift. But will that really happen?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. It's easier said than done. So where is it lacking? What is wrong that it's
Yeah,
not happening? And the simple thing is, we do not value nature. Yeah.
I agree.
There is no value to nature. As children, we were never taught that ecosystem services are absolutely essential for sustaining life. We were never told that pollution is a result of economic activities. We were never told that there is no fresh water on the planet. There is only marine water. The only fresh water we get is from the hydrologic cycle. We were never told that only photosynthetic organisms can make food for everybody, right? So we don't see the real value of nature. We think that nature hai na, okay, summer mein uh, we'll go to look at the tiger in Tadoba at Ranthambore. We'll take the seaside resort, we'll do all of that. That's nature for us. Nature, we have relegated nature to entertainment, recreation and entertainment. We don't realize the value. That's the first problem. Second problem is, in our entire school education, we do not have nutrition as a subject, right? Keeping yourself healthy is now relegated to the medical profession. It's
Mm.
not about, see, you have family doctors. Dr. Ganpule is my family doctor. I will proudly say so. Do I say the same thing with, do I have a family farmer? Do I know who's giving my food? Do I know if his family is well fed, if he is able to make good food for me? No, I don't do that. So you're saying, your question was perfectly right. Do we have the free will to decide what we want, or is society guiding us? And the simple answer is, the entire economic growth is influenced by two nouns: comparison and competition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Businesses compete and consumers compare. I am continuously comparing that my friend bought a 3 bedroom apartment. My friend bought a iPhone 17, like you said, or my brother-in-law brought a seaside resort. These are the things. There is no absolute satisfaction. Satisfaction is only relative. Yeah. In relation to somebody else, I'm more satisfied. In relation to something else, I'm less satisfied. Absolute satisfaction hai hi nahi aajkal. We are told today that you have to buy what Shah Rukh Khan is advertising. You have to buy what this fellow is doing. And
और
therefore,
कभी था क्या, even in the past?
yeah, absolutely. Not just right now. And this is because there is competition to survive for businesses. Yeah. So we have to work on 2, 3 fronts. On one front, we have to work with school children. We have to give them knowledge of nutrition, health, healthy food, ecosystems, nature, biological diversity, all that is important for life to be sustained on this planet. On the second side, we have to uh, give adult education. It's not just about children education. You and I also need to be educated. My peers, my friends, they all don't realize this because we have never been taught this. So we need to go and educate ourselves. And the third thing is we have to enable an economy which is based on green growth rather than take, make, use, throw. So rather than a linear economy, we have to move towards a circular economy. And in agriculture, we have to move from a yield-based, yield maximization economy into a nutrition maximization agriculture. And are these things possible? Absolutely possible. There are countries which are doing it. There are businesses which are getting into linear circular economy. There are very big startups now which are in circular economic frame all across the world, even in India. There are companies which are doing the right things. So all this is happening. In India, we are probably a little late to notice all that, or maybe we just are not. We have too many other problems, which we need to take care of before we can think of this. But yeah, it's absolutely.
Probably it's the cycle wherein other countries who have realized it and who have started putting lots of efforts in this have already reached a certain stage of development, or they have gone through that phases before we have, and we have entered into that phase of development or
Later.
growth. I would say, as you rightly put,
Yes.
it is not development but growth. That's phase what we have just started with, and probably we would realize after that growth phase is over, and maybe that's the time when we will start putting in more efforts. But it would be good if we learn from the mistakes that have been done by the other countries,
Western countries, yeah.
Western countries, and we start putting it into perspective and implementing it before the damage is done to the same extent. But then what kind of projects, what kind of what you can say changes have started, or you intend to get into or bring into our practices, which will have this development really sustainable?
Yeah. So one part is the renewable energy pathway. The world is moving towards renewable energy. It's not just about solar photovoltaic cells, but also about biomass based energy, right? There is a lot we can cultivate biomass to produce energy in India, especially because we are a tropical country. We have sunlight throughout the year. 12 months we have sunlight, unlike temperate climatic countries which don't have sunlight all throughout. So we are in a much better position to move to a biomass based energy economy, where we can generate hydrogen, biogas, and so many other things. And we have already started. I mean, that's happening already. That is one pathway. Second is in the green economy, the green sectors. We have food. 55% of our population is dependent upon agriculture and agriculture related industries, right? And all that is capable of turning much more green and much more well-being driven rather than consumption driven. So there are ample opportunities for job creation there, right? So this kind of an economy will not just foster well-being of society, but will also create jobs for the future. These are the jobs which need to happen so that our future generations are secured of water, of food, and of resources, natural resources. So all that is also happening today. This is absolutely here and now. None of this is what something else. And what you rightly said is correct. We have to learn from the mistakes of Western countries. One of the biggest mistakes. Why are we so late in realizing this? For such a long time, the British ruled us and they exploited. The British were criminals. They looted the country. They took away all our resources. And while doing so, they left us poorer. Our natural capital was stolen. Our timber, our sag, our sal trees, all our resources, the indigo, jute, we were diverted. We were pushed into manufacturing more tobacco and coffee and tea, all of that. So large landscapes came under this cultivation, which was useful. Why was this happening? Because when the British landed here, their industrial revolution was on. And the industrial revolution started with Manchester and Liverpool with their cotton textiles. But the industrial revolution, look at the funny part. Their raw material cannot be manufactured in temperate climates. Cotton grows only in tropical climates. So they had to convert large tracts of land into cotton cultivation, and they started taking it away. So अभी अभी जो हम बात कर रहे हैं ना, we keep saying that Trump is imposing 100%, 50% taxes. Trump is not the first. The first people were the British. They used to impose 50 to 100% duties on the cloth made in India, so that Manchester and Liverpool cotton will be cheaper than Indian cotton. So they were the first ones to impose the tariff. This is the second wave of tariff imposition which has happened.
Okay. Okay. You just said about the solar and energy, renewable energy, and we are talking lots about this electrical EVs, and all the automobile industry is getting converted from the conventional fuels, fossil fuels, to the renewable electric vehicles. I always wonder, is it really a renewable energy which will reduce the pollution or the burden on the ecosystem? Because all the batteries and everything which are going to get generated, now we know that every 5 years we have to change the battery. 5 years, I'm talking a lot, probably every 3 years could also be the time frame which we are looking at. But every 3 years, so much of batteries which are going to get replaced. What's going to happen with those batteries? Will
Yeah.
that not be a pollutant?
Yeah. So the much lesser problem is what is going to happen to the batteries. A much bigger problem is where do we get the critical minerals that are needed for electric vehicles? Okay.
Yes.
All the electric vehicles need at least about 15 different elements from the periodic table, which are termed as critical minerals or rare earths. Now, how much stocks of rare earths and critical minerals does India have? So much. We have zero stocks. We are 100% dependent upon imports. Our graphite is coming entirely from China. Our cobalt is coming from abroad. Our lithium is 100% coming from the lithium triangle, which is Bolivia, Peru, and Chile. These three countries. All these rare earth materials, we are completely dependent upon global supply chains. Now, think about it. If there is one war, all these supply chains are disrupted, like it happened in COVID. There was no traffic which was happening. If there is one increase in the price of lithium, all the car manufacturers are going to go shouting about it. So the problem is not about recycling of batteries, which is easier to solve. We are very good as a nation. We are excellent in recycling minerals. We are one of the highest recyclers of aluminum, for example. Nowhere in the world is 99% aluminum recycled. Yeah, many people, a lot of aluminum beer cans and Coke cans ends up in landfills. In India, it will never happen. We will recycle everything because there's money in it. So battery का भी वैसे ही होने वाला है. Batteries, you will get a very good recycling system and recovery of materials. But where is the fresh material going to come from? Are we going to be dependent upon
I
China?
never thought of that.
Yeah. So today we are completely dependent upon Russia for our crude oil. Tomorrow we'll be completely dependent upon China for graphite and Bolivia and Peru and Chile for lithium. We don't have lithium.
But then, is it the right way to go ahead when we are saying that?
That is what I'm saying. The right way for us is biomass-based energy, and that is being picked up. So our Center for Sustainable Development, we created this model of biomass-based economy, and we presented it to the Ministry of New and Renewable Resources. Now it is picked up. Last year it was picked up, and it's being run. 3 pilot projects over 500 acres are now being run across India. So it's no longer with us; it's now with the ministry. But this has come up. They have realized that biomass is something which is easily grown. We have farming skills all across the country. We have great sunlight. We have very good soil, and we can cultivate biomass.
Just tell us a little more about what do you mean by biomass?
Biomass means grass. So there are two varieties of grass. One is called Napier grass. Hatti gawat bolte hain isko Hindi mein. Napier grass, and the second is called energy cane. This is Dianthus arundinacea. That's a species. And both these are like sugar cane, but without the sugar. So they require much less water and they cultivate very fast. Now these these grasses you harvest, you dry them, you remove the moisture, and you put them through gasification route, and you can extract hydrogen from it, or at an earlier stage you can create compressed biogas from it, and both are in absolute demand all across the country. So these are very practical things which are happening, and they have started. Indian Oil Corporation has invested in hydrogen and compressed biogas from this. Rajasthan has made it mandatory now. 5% biomass-based energy has to be used in every coal-based electricity plant.
Okay.
So these things are happening.
Okay. Okay. Nice. So you said that you use the word microbiota in the soil and how it is destroyed by the pesticides and everything. And that's exactly what has been talked about even in our medical profession quite a lot nowadays. That we are now saying that almost every disease has an origin in the gut microbiome. And so when I first heard about it, I quickly thought of, "Arey, this is what has been told to us in Ayurveda uh, generations or hundreds of years before, which now we as modern science learners, getting to or gathering the information about it, or so what I mean, how this is going to affect, or the sustainable development is going to affect this, and how can we reduce the disease burden by this sustainable development?
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. There are 2, 3 things that we need to talk about here. One is the microbiota in the soil, which I just discussed a little bit earlier. It's very important that we nourish the microbiota. All the protozoas and the bacteria and the soil microbes, earthworms, all of them need to be retained, because they are the ones which are helping our crops to get their nutrition. Second is microbiota of the gut, within our body system. Now, if we eat more processed foods, the wrong microbiota are getting the nourishment from that. And thus, your stomach becomes the primary center where the nutrition cannot be absorbed. That is the second thing. The third very important thing is look at the pathogen. If you look at the last 10, 15 years, all the new diseases which have come up are what are called as the zoonotic diseases. Zoonotic diseases are diseases where the pathogen has moved from the animal kingdom into the human kingdom. Okay.
Yes.
So look at SARS, look at SARS, MERS, Nipah, Zika, COVID-19, swine flu, bovine flu, bird flu. All of these are zoonotic diseases.
Yeah.
Why are we getting more zoonotic diseases today than earlier? Earlier, there were 2 main zoonotic diseases, plague and rabies. Plague used to come from rat bite, and rabies used to come from dog bite. Now we have overcome that. Today, all these new diseases are zoonotic diseases. What is making the pathogen jump from the animal kingdom into the human kingdom? A couple of things. First and most important, that every pathogen has a host animal. So, for example, in Nipah, the Nipah virus, the host is a bat. Now, if the host animal is threatened, then that pathogen is going to come out and is going to. It's exactly like, if there is a volcanic eruption in Pune, we will run and go to Satara or Mumbai. That's exactly what happens. If they are under threat, they are going to move out. So, if the food chain collapses, these pathogens have to look for new hosts. And what better host than a human being? Because we don't have the antibodies for that. We don't have what is needed. We don't have that immunity against that. So they will thrive in our body. And exactly what happened in COVID-19 and all the other zoonotic diseases. So one is that the host animal is under threat. Second is, our interactions with animals has increased. So today we are closer to animals because we have moved into their territory. So it's easier for the pathogen to travel, get into us. And the third most important thing is our immunity has reduced because of the kind of food we are eating. We are deprived of the micronutrients which the body needs. We get the main nutrients, we get satiety. but we don't get those micro, because if you look at what has happened today between your and my generation and our grandfather, just ask your grandparents what used to be the variety of food on their plate and see what is the variety of food on our plate, right? The diversity which they used to eat tubers, they used to eat honey, they used to eat raw vegetables, they used to eat so many other things which supplied the micronutrients to them. Today, our diet consists mainly of potatoes, wheat, rice, onions, garlic, all of that, which deprives these spikes. So if our immunity is reducing, if the animal kingdom is threatened, and if our interactions with animals increase, then zoonotic diseases will increase over time.
Yeah.
So it's all about microbiota. We have to manage the microbiota of the planet.
So we have 5 minutes left for us to discuss about the things. We talked about the zoonotic diseases, and we talked about the agriculture and so on and so forth. So, if you want to tell us or guide us regarding what should be my first step as an individual, that I can take so that that becomes a part of the sustainable development today, which is easy for me to take, and which can go a long way.
Yeah. So we always talk about reuse, recycle, repair, and all that, right? We talk about 3 R's. I
Yeah.
think as a consumer, for you and me, the most important R is refuse. What can you refuse?
Okay.
Right?
That's a good.
And there are healthy choices which we can make. We can refuse certain things. For example, we can refuse disposable cutlery. We can refuse plastic shopping bags. We can reduce the amount of plastic in this planet. The big problem that is looming in front of us, especially you doctors, is that the microplastics which are now found in baby blood
Yeah.
and the nervous system. The microplastics have reached. Do you know what is the single biggest reason of these microplastics? Where are the microplastics coming from? Take a guess. Every plastic degrades and disintegrates and becomes micro. And that enters the water, goes into our food chain and comes into us. But where is the microplastic coming from? The biggest source.
Water bottles?
Okay, one is the water bottle and so many other things. The most important source of microplastics is our clothes.
Is it?
We have polyester, we have acrylic, we have nylon, we have rayon in our clothes. Every day we wash them. Every washing cycle we put that water into our rivers. Every
Oh.
day from our house we are generating microplastics.
Mm.
Suti kapada dalo is not because Gandhiji said, because it's a health requirement.
But then when we say suti kapda, the one which we get as a cotton, is it really 100% cotton?
So we have to ascertain, like I said, do we have a family farmer? Like, so can we really make a better choice? And yes, the answer is yes, we can make. It takes some trial and error, but it's possible. It's not impossible. It's not like
Ah,
going to the moon.
yeah.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gurudas. It was wonderful having a interaction with you and understanding more about the sustainable development, sustainable lifestyle. And yes, as you said, we all should learn the word refuse, to use that
Yeah.
word, and to choose and pick what is good for the ecosystem, the ecology,
Yes.
rather than just looking at the economic growth and the and the betterment of, that would help, or that would go a long way in the
Yeah.
betterment of human and overall other animal kingdom or life on earth as well. So a
And I
last
think
word for you before
I
we
just want to add here,
yes,
as
yes.
doctors, you have great influence of society on society. And especially gynec doctors will have a huge influence on expecting mothers. So
Yes.
something very simple like creating some informative poster reception or waiting area will go a long way in educating your patients.
Absolutely. So we are coming, so we are, having this endocrine disrupting chemicals, what we call it as EDCs.
Yeah,
And
bisphenol A and all.
bisphenol A and all. Yeah. So we are working quite a lot on that. And again, all the lectures or talks, what, we give for that, somewhere I feel it's time for us to go back to the lifestyle that our great grandfathers had. Start using the pot and the clay earthen pots and earthen things rather than using these plastics and steel and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the ways for us to save this ecosystem
Yeah.
and thank you, Dr. Gurudas, once again on behalf of Foxy and the Endocrinology Committee. I would like to thank for being here today and enlightening us about what is sustainable living and what is sustainable development. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me here. I hope our viewers are able to get something out of it.
Absolutely. It was enlightening us. Yeah.
Thank you.